Zombies Day 0 Part 5 Mishamoto Clocktime. Any resemblance to reality will be pure coincidence. The news was disturbing. Cases of aggression went beyond usual violence and rain. The rain which never stops me. At 10 o'clock, I arrived at Me's house, appearing with my hair and clothes wet, my old backpack and a stick with iron sleeve. I saw his eyes looking for answers. The best thing about being a man is being able to embrace her with a hug of those who come out to the last. What happened? Misha asked, and I began to tell him in detail the hackers that I witnessed this morning. From the shortage of electricity when I woke up, the lack of traffic when I went to work and the desolate street. And the bloody events at the entrance of the institute, the group of armed people and my escape maneuvers to avoid contact with a disguise. That's my run. When we spoke to Gior, my neighbor, he showed me the first video he found on his cell phone. It was exactly the same as what I had seen, although with the papers turned, I told him. Then I went home, prepared the backpack. And why are you bringing that stick? He asked me unexpectedly. It was that I thought that it would be effective to keep a distance if some whistle was thrown on me. And it worked when I passed that corner where the boys gathered to give him the alcohol and that nasty thing that they smoke. I didn't see from where two of them appeared. The first came walking like an old movie mummy, slow and with arms raised with all the desire to grab me as breakfast. That I would come well a cup of coffee if it is not annoyance. Mishamoto, with her impenetrable, inescapable Eastern face, has the ability not to reflect the slightest emotion, but long ago I learned to read subtle changes in the brightness of her eyes. Whitney gave me a cup of instant coffee masterfully prepared, and served the tea with a ceramic teaspoon. I hear you, he told me to keep telling him. He said to you, the one who approached me first, tried to grab me and opened his mouth like one to bite. For a little and I get on, but with the tip of the stick I kept him away, and ere the other came to me emptying his lungs, there I spent a cartridge, I said as I pulled out my multicolor weapon. I remember my soldier times, and he reached it. I want you to have it. I have very few cartridges. So you shot a person? You killed him? He asked me coldly. He didn't say nothing of that. I put him on one leg, he fell, I ran out, and the other stumbled and fell on him. I'll be accused of serious injuries. Mishamoto, the psychologist of Oriental origin, entered my life as an enigma, she and her secret eyes. I met her at a conference, where her words resonated in my mind like a mantra. The human mind is a maze, he said, his accent soft as a caress. Every thought, every emotion is a thread that connects us with our past and our future. Her eyes met mine, and at that moment, I knew there was something that made click between us. It's a kind of caring for words and hiding scars. At that conference our paths crossed, and an unexpected bond was created between us. Our encounters were like trips deep into our psyche. She knows how to explore the mind, and how to exorcise psychological demons. What's wrong with you, Professor? Asked one afternoon while I was remembering like, in a flash old war contacts, because some stupid broke a petard. The fault? Fear? The loss? You like to revolve the shit. Yeah, you like it, I told her by giving her my answer as a rehearsal. Her delicate hands held her cup of tea. We all carry something, he continued. But we also have the ability to heal, to rebuild ourselves. His eyes, in his impenetrable face, shining with intelligence. Why are you with me, Misha? I asked him. Why do you care? She smiled, a smile that transcended words. Because we all need someone. Someone who listens to us and doesn't judge us. Someone to accompany us. And at that moment, our connection became deeper. Mishamoto, the click inside, is a resonance to a whirlwind of sensations. Why are you staying? I asked him one night, while we shared a coffee in a lonely corner. His gaze, always enigmatic, sat on me. Because I find answers, he replied. America is a blank canvas, and I want to paint my own story here. His words resounded in my soul like a whisper between silences. And so Mishamoto stayed. His presence, like a fragile thread, intertwined with mine. Misha and I in her little apartment, surrounded by books and the scent of incense that always accompanied her. The computer screen blinked between news channels, showing fragments of the world. Local television had stopped broadcasting for hours. Their studios, once full of smiling presenters and trivial, trending news, were now snow on the TV. On the computer the titles had changed drastically. Unknown brother in the center. The epicenter of chaos was somewhat far from us. But not so much. I had also seen at least 3 or 4 inexplicable violence in the streets. The images showed people scattering each other with their eyes blank, moving with animal ferocity. They weren't zombies like those in the movies, they were worse. He had no name and he was ashamed. The government declares put down. The authorities tried to maintain control, but their efforts were futile. The streets were full of shouting, shooting and the smell of dust, blood and shit. The hospitals were receiving more people than they could contain, and they were about to collapse. Already, the bodies were stacked on the back of their buildings. Misha, with her serene gaze, looked at me. "What do you think is going on?" he asked in his fluent English. His Japanese accent was barely noticeable. "It's like they lost the compass," I replied. "The courtesy collapses and the worst emerges. We have to remain lucid and prepare for any contingency." She cried. "The human mind is fragile. Fear, despair, are as powerful as any virus." I looked at the computer screen again. The news kept coming, but I didn't care anymore. The outer world had turned into chaos and we remained with some balance. We were made two souls in connection. What romantic! I thought, as I realized that my first priority was to meet Misha. At that moment, the noise of knocking at the door struck us. Misha stood up, with my gun in her hand. I didn't see when she took off her safe. She looked through the marilla while I looked at her perfect ass. "He's a neighbor. Looks intoxicated," he said in an intransigent tone.